Hello, and thanks for joining us once again on Solutions Pod, where we take some time to talk about some of the solutions that are needed in these very crazy times. I'm Jay Harvey Lewis with our amazing co-host, Anastasia Vosovic, and today we have the great pleasure of talking to Trace Crow of rootsdownga.com. But before we get into this, I just want to mention that today's episode is sponsored by naturehub.com, a platform designed to make your conscious consumer lifestyles easier and more locally focused. And also for those who are listening to the podcast version of this, you could also watch this on YouTube by going to youtube.com/naturehub and then navigate to the Solutions Pod playlist. So Trace, thank you so much for joining us. I guess just to start this out, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into local food activism with rootsdownga.com.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun. I love getting to talk about what we do at Roots Down, and I love what you do at Nature Hub as well. So I got into it, I'll say somewhat supernaturally, because I was freelancing, doing freelance marketing. It's kind of, what I do. I work with startups and early stage companies on branding, design, storytelling, those types of things. And I was just doing some freelancing, looking for maybe a more stable gig. And this is going to sound very interesting, but I heard a voice literally tell me, make food. And it was my voice. I didn't hear a voice. It was my voice, the same kind of sort of like normal, background chatter that's going on in the back of all of our heads. And it just, everything cleared. And I heard just simply like, make food, period. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I've been trying to grow a garden for 4 years and I kill everything. I'm like, how am I going to make food? I'm not a chef. How am I going to do this? So what I did was I thought, well, I'll volunteer with some food-based organizations locally to start with, and just see if that might make me feel better about my role in all of this. And so I wrote to like 3 or 4 organizations, just being like, hey, introducing myself, I'd love to volunteer. And the only one who got back to me was Roots Down. So Jamie, the founder and CEO of Roots Down, wrote me back and was like, actually, we don't really need volunteers. I could really use a marketing guy right now. And I was like, okay, perfect. So I helped, started by helping just with the branding, kind of redesigning the brand, made it a little more approachable, a little more cohesive, redid the website, and just kind of those early stage kind of, branding and marketing steps that have to be taken for a company to be taken seriously. But by like 4 months in, this was back in October, by January, him and I were like just clicking so much that it was like, you know what, this is it. I want to do this full time. I'm really committed to this. And so how I got into it, I don't know. It just sort of happened, really, and I'm very grateful and honored that it did. I would say it was a connection that was, I'll say, probably 20 years in the making. Because if you look at me and Jamie's kind of paths, they were very parallel. We were coming to very similar, ideas about the world and the role we wanted to play in it. And then we just sort of met each other at just the right time. COVID and everyone going inside and then rediscovering outside, has been like an absolute game changer for us. Jamie was like, hitting brick walls for years with the Roots Down concept. And then suddenly this year, it's doors are open. Now governments especially local governments and local orgs are very much aware that like we have got to have a robust outdoor spaces for people, because indoor spaces are not always available for various reasons. I think maybe we've gotten a little complacent down here in the South, because of air conditioning. Like you can always be comfortably indoors. And now, it's been the last 18 months, 20 months, it's been a very different landscape. And so, coming in with a shovel-ready solution for building better outdoor spaces for people, and coming in with the activation and the community engagement piece that we do, has been like, it's an idea that's having its moment right now. And that's been very exciting from my perspective over the last, I've been with the company since October, and like the growth, like the speed of adoption has just been, I've never been a part of a team, a product market fit quite like this, where it's just like everything is just firing on all cylinders.
Oh, it sounds amazing. It sounds like you've finally hit some breakthrough, which is awesome. And it's so great to hear that governments are responding in such a welcoming way, because it's amazing to know that they're recognizing there is need and how much benefit that would bring. So I suppose that our listeners would really love to know more about what Roots Down does. So Roots Down's dream is a world where every American has the necessary amount of food within a 5-minute walking distance from their own home. So what do you do to make that happen?
I mean, long story short, we work with governments to help them convert public land into food forests and pollinator habitat. You know, our goal is, as you stated, is we want every American. We'll start with Americans. We'll see where it goes from there. But we want every American to be within a 5-minute walk of fresh and nutritious food. Now, that may not be all of the food they need. You know, like a blueberry bush down the road will give you a nice little snack on a summer day, but isn't going to help you much in December, right? So we want everyone to be available, have food available to them in their immediate vicinity. And where that starts with us has been with the governments, because if you go to any county area in the US, the largest single landholder, generally speaking, in that area is the county government. So if you're looking to make the biggest bang for your buck immediately, it's going to be with the county government. But then we follow up with the community engagement piece. So, you know, the largest is going to be the county government. The next largest is probably going to be whatever, you know, farms or large scale businesses, you know, that operate in that county. They own a lot of land. And then finally you hit homeowners, right? And every homeowner, especially in the suburban South, has a lot of land at their disposal. It's just that we have bought into this concept of big, wide, beautiful Bermuda grass, right? Which is functionally, it's like an ecological dead zone, right? It's the worst of monocultures, monocrops. It's just a single plant, and you know, we're kind of trying to shift that paradigm. So we start with the public land. We have lots of community engagement pieces. So we're doing education all the time. Whenever we're doing maintenance on the locations that we're working on, we invite the community out to help us as a volunteer day so that they can start to learn how they can do this in their own backyards or their front yards if it's legal. And then the last piece is that we're actually working with the youth, something called the Green Hive, which is actually you can kind of think of it like a Scouts for eco-conscious teens they earn badges. So they earn a food or an earth or a people badge, and then they can get rewards and prizes for that. We're working on the specifics of how we're going to roll that out, but we'll be rolling it out next month nationwide, though we'll be focusing, you know, primarily on Atlanta region. But it's a way of them understanding that, like, you know, they can take action right now, you know, that there are very small actions. I like to say that when it comes to climate change, when it comes to ecological devastation, this is such a large problem. It's a large suite of problems that it really does take everybody doing something. And that could be recycling. It could be all the little consumer choices we've been kind of pushed into over the last 30 years. But it can also be taking direct action in your backyard or in your community. And just because you're 12 years old doesn't mean there's not something that you can do to help plant a small community garden or plant some blueberry bushes in your front yard that people can walk by and eat. And so we're really trying to help everyone understand that there's a little bit that they can all contribute. But we focus mostly on the governments because it's very showy, right? Like, it's very obvious when you have this robust garden around a community library. It's a great showpiece for what we're doing.
I'm actually going to split this next question into two parts. You have been working with these local governments to help activate these types of shifts into more productive green spaces. I used to work for a city park right out of college. Actually, I think I was still in college when I took this job. And I think it was just, there was almost no gardening. It was just, all right, mow it,
Mm-hmm.
and then mow it again. And there's just so much, potential that was being wasted. So I'm kind of curious, like, what the process is like for you to actually get these local governments on board that, since, historically they've been very resistant to anything other than the fastest, like, easiest solution possible. And then the second part of that question is, I think a lot of people are worried about governments breaking down, especially in the West. There's a lot of instability, socially speaking, that's kind of come to the surface recently. And how do you think that we can use some of the ideas from Roots Down GA to like going forward, like assuming like the government's become less and less reliable, what have you learned that could maybe help us as we move into possibly more unstable times?
Yeah, that's those are both really, really great questions. And I'll start with the last one first. I think we think about this at Rootstown. We do think about this pretty regularly. You know, we're reliant on one stream of income, which as a for-profit business, you want to think about obviously the sustainability of the business. Now, I like to say we're a for-profit business that isn't particularly concerned about profit. You know, we're mission oriented, we're mission driven. So if we're taking home just enough to cover everyone's salaries at the end of the day, we're fine with that as long as we push the mission forward. But we do need that sustainable amount of revenue, right? And we're reliant almost exclusively on government. So there's a couple ways that can dry up, right? It could be just simply that the governments stop paying us to do the work, right? There also can be, and that could be structural issues, we've got great politician allies, in Commissioners Ted Terry and Commissioner Marita Davis Johnson. But if they don't get reelected, right, suddenly we have all new people that we have to entertain on this concept. And then there is the like you're saying, the kind of further down the road is that, like, what if the governments have less and less ability to control the lands that they have? What is the actual long-term sustainability of this project? I come back to, I believe that it's the community engagement piece, is that in the end, right, we are building community gardens and food forest pollinator habitat on public land. Now, right now, that public land is stewarded by the county government, right? But if that county government is no longer able to maintain those lands or govern the area, though those blueberry bushes, those fig trees, those persimmon trees, those things are still there, right? They're still there. And if the community immediately adjacent understands that stuff is there, and we've already built that facility for volunteer base, for people to be able to maintain those spaces at first in tandem with the county government. But if the county government goes away, you got to think that, like, if we're at a situation where county governments are no longer able to maintain land, there's probably other systemic issues, right, that are harrying people. And so a food source that's right there and readily available on public land is something that I think is going to be an amazing resource for people in all circumstances. Right now the lovely thing is we have great partners. We work with Concrete Jungle, who has volunteers glean fruit trees and nut trees on public land and then distribute them to food insecure individuals and families. We have partnerships with, so we have ways of kind of systematically distributing the produce when it comes, but it's there anyway. So no matter whether there's someone to distribute it, if people are food insecure, if people are struggling to the degree that there's no county government managing things, people are going to discover this, and we'll be there to help them continue to discover these lands and maintain them. The interesting thing is, like, one of the main impetus for in the Western societies for understanding what permaculture was, right, is because of the discovery of, like, these 1,000-year-old Moroccan food forests, right, where people had been maintaining that land communally for literally generations, millennia, right? And I think that that's sort of the paradigm that we're trying to work towards, right? Is that in the US, obviously in the homesteading circles, there's like this definite, like, private property. You need to be food secure on your own. It's a very American view of things, right? And I'm fine, whatever floats anyone's boat, right? If it makes you happy and secure. But when we think of community gardens, we still take that private property into it, where it's like a space with a bunch of raised beds that people are paying rent to have their own raised bed. And I find it so interesting that no one is discussing this third way, which is communally owned areas, right, in which people can do a little bit of work and then reap the benefits of a whole multi-acre area, right? That has all this biodiversity and all these different food sources. I just think like that's kind of the direction we're heading into. Jamie says all the time that he wants farmers to be paid for their service and not their product. That as long as they're paid for their product, small farmers will never be able to compete with large agribusinesses because of economies of scale. Just in the same way that a small mom and pop grocery store can't compete with Walmart because of economies of scale. And it's further made worse because all the agribusinesses are like heavily subsidized, right? Directly, and then subsidized through, fossil fuel subsidies and the way that they're able to achieve their economies of scale. As long as we're competing against that, small farmers are always going to be at a disadvantage. So what we're doing is we're kind of pioneering a paradigm in which farmers basically are paid an hourly wage to go take care of these lands. And then we get to reap the benefit of that produce that they're working on. And the governments create local governments create the perfect skunk works for that, because they're already paying people to maintain land, right? Now we're just paying them to maintain a different type of land. Which kind of gets me back to the first question, right? Is that the maintenance of these landscapes, we've been getting that a lot in the past. It's starting to lessen, I think, because of the pressure to create better outdoor spaces is sort of like lowering the normal kind of barriers to entry or like objections that potential governments would bring up. But, we get most common questions are, won't all the fruit on the ground bring rats? Right. And, our answer is we won't let much fruit get to the ground in the first place because we have, volunteers and we've got organizations we work with to make sure that the fruit is picked. Right. The other thing is my response is I usually don't say this because it's not the best from a sales perspective. Right. But is that, well, the rats will bring hawks, the rats will bring owls. Like, if you give it a little bit of time, these things will take, nature will sort this out. Right. And the birds will eat it, and you'll have all this vibrancy and all this biodiversity because we're providing food for all sorts of species, not just humans, but all these other species. The other thing is, as far as maintenance goes, I think it's a little bit like we're preventative, right? Is that a landscape full of perennials is in fact easier to maintain over time than grass. Initially there's cost in putting it in. You got to make sure that everything sets. But like, how much time do people spend maintaining the trees in their front yard? Do you water it every day? No, the tree is established. It takes care of itself, right? You got to prune it every once in a while. You got to make sure that it's healthy. But that's not more work. It's just a different type of work, and it's less carbon intensive, it's less costly in the long run, and it's quieter work, right? So now, what we're doing, the work we're doing now is we built these kind of pilot projects, but now the next step is to be working within the facilities management department in DeKalb County to actually train up their managers to be able to manage vendors on taking care of these landscapes. So we're actually like institutionalizing, like shifting the actual paradigm on which a whole department maintains landscapes, the way they even look at landscapes. So, and it's interesting the way that small paradigm shift within a single department is starting to kind of have knock-on effects. Facilities management manages almost 200 properties in DeKalb County, and they're starting to look at like, oh wait, how can we start doing this at every one of the properties we manage? So you start saying, okay, wow, that's literally like acres upon acres of land that was grass is no longer grass. So how much pesticide, how much herbicide, how much gasoline are we saving by not having to mow and blow that grass now? And then you have all these other knock-on effects of like helping food insecurity, and it's sequestering more carbon, and it's lowering the temperature, right, of those particular areas, which Atlanta has a major problem being a big, heat island, right? And so, it has all these additional effects that make it very hard to like quantify at this level, at this stage, but are going to have huge budgetary implications down the road. We had a meeting with one of the commissioners, and they told us like what their budget was, what he just voted on in Roundup, like just like it was a line item. You think for a county that owns thousands of acres, right? Their Roundup budget is like insane, right? And we're like, if we can just chip away at that, like, the amount of money they're spending on essentially making the environment worse, essentially making climate change worse. And we're chipping away at that, $1 at a time, $10 at a time, thousands of dollars at a time. So what the work we're doing pays for itself in spades, as long as you can get the government to think preventatively instead of like just 1 year at a time. Like we're just trying to just keep the wheels, stay on the treadmill, just keep it on the tracks, right? And so we're very blessed. I'll just kind of finish by saying I feel very blessed and honored that we have found such fertile soil here in DeKalb County with the DeKalb County government, multiple commissioners. The COO is very on board. Facilities management, Kevin Buford, the head of facilities management, has been an absolute champion from the beginning. And it makes it so much easier when you have people at all these different levels of government recognizing the need for this and championing the idea. It certainly makes my job easier as a sales and marketing guy. If you're discussing how to make it happen and less whether it should happen or not.
Yeah, I just want to bring some clarity to this issue because I have a friend in Florida who hopefully we'll have on Solutions Pod at some point, Kriya Egan, if you're listening. She's fought for food forests in city parks successfully, like years back. She was the first person to do it, and she had so much resistance from her city council. And those are the kinds of questions that they brought up is, well, what about the rats? Well, with all this, aren't there going to be snakes and rats? And it's really not a problem. She has an entire city park, and there's not been a single person bit by a snake, or rats aren't crawling through the neighborhood. In fact, I think that any city council member who is coming up against these kinds of questions, go to the dumpsters at the fast food restaurants at night. You're going to find 1,000 times more rats than you're ever going to find at a community garden. Mm-hmm. I have a community garden in Florida right next to houses, and it's just not a problem. One time there was a rat nest, very cute little rats. I left them. I was cleaning a gutter at a house nearby, and the next day the mother mouse brought them somewhere else. Never saw them again. So a lot of these problems exist in people's minds, and by establishing a balance in nature and not throwing glyphosate at everything, that's so disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they're operating at scale, right? So they're operating at scale. So they're looking at, I'll give them credit because they are trying to be good fiduciaries of the public trust, right? So they have a lot of land, they've got a lot of tax dollars, and they're trying to use it as efficiently and intelligently as possible, right? And so you got to give them credit for trying to be good stewards of tax money. But, it's bumping up against the very real specter of climate change, ecological devastation, flooding, watershed management, roads and drainage. Like all of these issues are interconnected. And at a certain point, I think that like county government is about the highest scale in which you can create hyper-local solutions. Anything above that, and you're starting to look at scalable solutions, you're starting to look at hypertrophic solutions, one size fits all that's going to necessarily leave 10% of the population high and dry. County governments are the perfect level because they generally have good large budgets, right? They're making decisions for large groups of people, but it's a little bit more homogenous, right? Obviously, in a large urban county like DeKalb County, we've got over 800,000 residents. So they're from all over the world, literally. But they're able to make local strategic decisions, right? So they can actually make a decision about a specific stretch of road, for instance, right? Where like the state level or the federal level are never going to make those types of decisions or incapable of making it. They have larger budgets, but not if you spread it over every square inch. So county governments are like the perfect area to be able to affect these types of, I'll say inefficient, but more sustainable ways of doing things. So they're going about it in the most efficient way. It's very much like, government thinking like a business is like, well, we're going to try and find the most cost-effective way to do something, but they're only thinking, the problem that county governments have, or governments in general that private businesses don't have, is they don't get to ignore externalities, right? They are the gutter for the externalities, basically, right? So if your Walmart there is hiring everyone at poverty wages, and they all have to be on welfare, or there's crime because, of food insecurity and stress that comes with poverty, like the county government doesn't get to ignore that. They're actually the ones who have to solve all those problems or find solutions. And so when something like our Roots Down program comes along, I think they're starting to recognize that it's not just a new paradigm for landscaping, right? That's the most fundamental thing we're doing. It's actually a new paradigm for almost like deploying government dollars at the local level, is that they're going to deploy it on solutions that solve multiple problems simultaneously. We're not just a permaculture company from the fact that we build permaculture landscapes. We're permaculture in the way we think about business. So we're always asking, whenever we're going to do something, we're always like, how can we stack functions? How can we make this event do more than one thing for more than one people? Which is a very odd, that's an odd way of thinking about business, because business for the longest time has been about hyper specialization, right? Is that we're going to do one thing, you're going to do it incredibly well, and you're going to serve your niche and know everything about your niche. And we're trying to solve multiple systemic problems simultaneously with one relatively elegant solution. But it is really a suite of solutions, because we build the landscapes, we consult with the government, we do jobs training so that people can maintain this and start their own businesses. And then we're doing the youth component. So we're actually doing all of these different pieces that all feed into ultimately providing for the success of the landscapes that we built. Otherwise, they'll just, everyone knows the community garden, that's just a bunch of wooden boxes full of dirt now, right? And weeds. Because without someone maintaining it, without someone loving it, without someone understanding how to maintain it, it won't last. It'll just become a weedy lot. And so we're really keen on that community sustainability over time.
The youth component of it sounds very interesting, because there is a lot of argument that this sort of education needs to be there in a normal school curriculum, but it's not, and not even to any extent. So tell us a bit more about the ecology and leadership education that you offer to teenagers and college students, and how can people that want to join and gain access to this piece, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the Green Hive is our umbrella organization or program for youth. It's for middle schoolers, high schoolers, and college-aged scholars, I'll say. We're really trying to be very conscious that like college isn't for everybody, and the types of jobs we're trying to build, they're green jobs, but they're also, kind of blue collar jobs. It's able to work with your hands. It's able to work with skills instead of needing specific, you don't need a BA to do this work. You just need a good attitude and a willingness to learn, and being patient and paying attention, right, to the landscapes around you. So we've got two pieces. One is for high school and middle schoolers. It's just called the Green Hive. It really is like, think of it as like a decentralized Scouts for eco-conscious teens. So the idea is that you can apply to earn food, earth, or people badges. And, it could be anything, right? Like you could create a recipe and then you just share the recipe and boom, you got your food badge, right? And you can earn as many as you want. We'll try and, we have Tuesday chapter meetings. They're by Zoom, focusing on DeKalb County to start with. But if there's interest from around the country, individuals around the country can start their own chapters. We're trying to have it be decentralized in much the way that like Sunrise Movement or Earth Uprising or many of these other youth-led organizations are decentralized. We're just trying to create a clearinghouse for middle school and high schoolers to get some education, but more importantly, put that education towards action in their community. We really want them to understand that, I guess one of my critiques of many of the organizations that are out now is they've recognized that there is a tremendous amount of climate and ecology anxiety among teenagers, right? But they tend to pour that anxiety into awareness campaigns, social media campaigns, government lobbying campaigns, which are all incredibly important, but there needs to be an action piece of it. And the action isn't just protesting. It isn't just writing your senator. It isn't just doing these sort of like activist things. It means that if you and your friends can go raise $1,000 from your neighbors and go plant a community garden on your own, Like, you don't actually need anyone's permission. You don't need specialized knowledge. This isn't as complicated as it's made out to be. You can lobby your school. Your most every school's PTA or PTO has $1,000 to put towards something like this, if it looks like it's going to be taken care of. So this is something that the kids can do now. And so that's what the Green Hive is about, is giving them kind of, it's sort of gamifying the concept of, like, you're going to do a little bit of things to earn your food, and then earn an earth and a people badge. So you can become a more well-rounded leader and community organizer with an ecological, food production-oriented lens. So that's what the Green Hive is. We're kicking off the DeKalb County chapter next month. At the same time, we're also kicking off something that is modeled after the Civilian Conservation Corps. There's a lot of talk about the Climate Corps and the Green New Deal. We're not waiting on the federal government to lead on this. We're just going to lead independently. So we've created the Green Hive Leadership Program, which is a 10-week leadership and community organizing course for 18 to 22-year-olds. So college-aged individuals. They don't have to go to college. They simply have to be a resident of DeKalb County, and we're going to pay them. So we're going to pay them almost $30 an hour to go through this course for 10 weeks. And it culminates in a $15,000 to $20,000 public works project that will be working in tandem with one of the commissioner's offices. So they're getting this experience working directly with a local government official's office. They're getting experience that, at the end of it, they'll always be able to point to that community garden and be like, look what I built. I built that. That was something I worked on. They're also going to get letters of recommendation, the certificate. It's obviously a great resume builder. But we're really kind of hoping that this will help us establish the next generation of leaders who then, as they disperse and go to different parts of the country, hopefully we've awakened something inside of them that they realize that this is a business they can start, or this is an organization they can start. This is something they can do on their own. They don't need Rootsdown's permission. They don't even need our resources. They can go and do this on their own wherever they end up landing. And, that's a big part of, like, us hedging against collapse in a way, is that if we seed this idea in enough kids, as they grow up, they'll find their way. They'll find ways of implementing this type of knowledge and the leadership experience that they had in their own way, in their own communities. And it won't be so centralized and reliant on us constantly priming the pump and working with governments and working at things at the top level. Last, if they want to get involved, it's rootsdownga.com/greenhive. You can sign up. We're starting in September, but it's totally free to sign up. You can donate if you want a sticker or a t-shirt or something, a little extra to go along with your membership. We welcome donations, but it's not necessary. It's totally free.
Very exciting that you are inspiring that from that young age. It's going to be exciting to see what kind of results that brings in the coming years. But your program isn't just for kids and young adults, though, right?
The Green Hive is, but the program itself. So essentially, we work with the government first, and then the next piece is community education, right? And that goes with educating up the actual government employees who will be maintaining these landscapes, right, in perpetuity. But it's also educating the residents and the community at large. So we're actually getting started with Georgia Piedmont Technical on creating a 10-week certificate course for one path will be on public land. So the idea is you're going to try and get a job with either the government or as a landscaping contractor, right, taking care of public land or large commercial land. And then the other piece will be for residents. So kind of think of it as like a 21st century master gardener course. So people, will pay a certain amount of money, they'll go through the 10-week course, and at the end of it, they've got this kind of, down and dirty knowledge about how they can convert their own yard or their neighbors' yards or in a space in their local community into this type of, we call it productive urban landscapes. And so, so there's that community outreach. Like I said, every maintenance event, we do monthly maintenance events that are totally open to the community. If they want to come and haul a little bit of mulch, plant some echinacea, by all means, it's open to anybody. And then we're also going to be starting to host like salons and like old school salons where we get like smart people together and they chit chat about different ideas, and hosting, just more like workshop-y type of classes. Obviously, COVID has created a very like weird environment to be trying to do in-person stuff. But we've got that kind of silver bullet of everything that we do. We can do it on a small scale, and we can do it all outside. So we've got kind of, we're going to go full steam ahead with those types of events in order to continue to spread the knowledge and spread the movement, which shouldn't rely on us. We want it to kind of be self-sustaining over time.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about that kind of salon, because you're not getting me into a hair salon. This is where I get, it's part of the
yeah. I haven't gotten my hair cut in I don't know, 2 years almost now. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah.
You've lightly touched on some of the partnerships that you have. So I do know that some of the partners you work with on building this lovely community, they're quite inspiring sort of organizations as well. Would you like to tell us a bit more about those?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we've got a partnership with Concrete Jungle. They're a local organization, so I think they only operate in the Atlanta metro area, but their vision is so beautiful. They have worked with Georgia Tech to create like a map of like virtually every fruit tree on public land in the Atlanta metro area. And then they approximate, right, when like you roughly know when figs are going to be ready, right? And so all the fig trees, they send out text APBs out to their volunteers near that fig tree and say, hey, this fig tree should be ready to glean here pretty soon. And so their volunteers go glean the trees and then bring that to their distribution center. And then they've created almost like it's like a CSA for like 400 families. And then they deliver fresh produce directly to those families. It's an absolutely beautiful mission. They're looking at growing the CSA side of it. So I'll be really excited to see how that grows as they get more families, as they start to partner with local farms, right? And so it's what I love about it is like the beginning, right, of that sort of regional food security, that like if obviously right now they're focusing on food insecure families, but if that type of, we're building more public lands with food, that allows them to expand their mission. It means that they might be able to start to expand more and more into this concept of, farmers being paid for their service and not their product. And sort of change. They're helping us shift that paradigm by helping us on the back end, right? Because we don't want to be responsible for always having to, to go and pick all the fruit for all the landscapes that we build. So they provide that service for us. Another great partner we have is Georgia Audubon Society. We did several youth events over the summer, and on a couple of them, employees at the Georgia Audubon Society came out and did bird watching tours at the youth events. So it was really special to see like these young kids, elementary school kids, coming to the library, which they think of as one thing. I can get books and audiobooks and movies here, but now I can come and I can get a popsicle and I can walk through the garden and I can eat a blueberry off of a bush for the first time in my life, and I can go bird watching. It's very like it's kind of like bringing the whole package together. We're hopefully working on getting some of these library locations actually bird sanctuary certified with them. So finding out what additional types of plants and trees and nest boxes and things that we need to build in order to get that certification. We also work with Compost Now. They're a regional company that is compost as a service, basically. They give you a box, you put your compost, put the box out, they pick it up, and then they deliver you a certain number of compost every month. But we're one of their community garden partners. So like 300 people have agreed to donate their compost to us. So then on a monthly or quarterly basis, they'll drop off compost at one of our libraries in order to be able to use that compost. Locally, there's also Foodwell Alliance. Gosh, the DeKalb Library Foundation. We have just, it is such a blessing to be in an area in which there's so many food-based organizations doing such great work that we really like. I really feel like our seed fell in really fertile soil, and I'm not sure that I'm not sure that every metro area is this ripe, with these types of ideas. And so, it's a real blessing to have all these different organizations. Oh, Let's Move Libraries also. It's an organization out of UNC. They they've given us a couple shout outs on their newsletter and stuff. They're all about, they kind of took Michelle Obama's mandate to make libraries, better places of like physical healing and physical health. And so they kind of took that mandate and kind of moved on to try and like help institute programs in which libraries can be used as places for physical health as well as mental health.
Yeah, it's really exciting to hear about all those things coming together to create that ecosystem of activators in the community. Like solving the problem of food insecurity and food deserts, it's a serious thing that I think doesn't come up on a lot of people's radar because they don't understand like how much the food system has, the industrial food system has hurt us, that like bad food keeps people in an impoverished state mentally and physically. I think solving this and increasing the access to healthy food. I mean, it's so sad that people are like getting to pick a blueberry for the first time. Like it's great that's happening, but I'm really looking forward to a future where that's not the sad reality for most Americans, where they are so detached from the food system. Mm-hmm. It's just really so awesome to hear what you're doing. And I'd like to hear just like one or maybe two examples of some of the projects that have sprung up from what you're doing that you're maybe like the most proud of, or just like really surprised to see the effect.
Well, our first round of projects were what we've called the Edible Libraries campaign. So in District 5, which is Commissioner Marita Davis Johnson's district, she had already invested in really beautiful gazebos at all of the five libraries in her district. All 5 libraries also happen to sit like, I believe all 5 are in food deserts. So it was sort of like a perfect kind of like, okay, great. You've already got this beautiful place for people to sit, get out of the summer heat, enjoy themselves, have events. And so let's build vignettes around them to kind of showcase what we're capable of doing. And then at the Clarkston Library in District 6, there is no grass anywhere on that library land now. It's entirely a food forest and pollinator habitat now. And so that was the first thing we did. What we found is that like, it's very hard to convince people of a dream. It's a lot easier to show them the dream, right? So we needed to kind of strike while the iron's hot, get a few of these vignettes, a few of these pilot projects in the ground so we could showcase what we mean when we talk about productive urban landscapes. It's already, some of the things I'm most proud of with those pilot projects is, one is that at Clarkston, we've already had the lawn care maintenance company has already come out multiple times and just been like, they blow a little bit in the parking lot, but there's literally nothing for us to do. Like, you guys have eliminated everything. So that's like, essentially a half acre of land that no longer needs to be mowed or blowed. So they're not burning gasoline. It no longer needs to be sprayed with herbicide or pesticide. So that's a very small win, but you can kind of see how those small wins start to stack up. Overall, between the 6 libraries, we've converted over two full acres into food forests and pollinator habitat. But I think, the one thing that really, really stuck out to me is that when we went to these libraries, they were they were ecological dead zones, right? It was just bad, patchy grass. When we dug it all up, we literally had to plant things we had to use a pickaxe to like dig the holes because it was just compacted clay, just intense soil. When we dug it up, there were no worms. There was nothing but like gnats and mosquitoes, right? That was the only life that existed in these spaces. And now, 6 months later, with all of this stuff, there's bees, there's butterflies, there's crickets, there's goldfinches eating the sunflower seeds. There's hawks eating the rabbits that are there. There's clearly deer because they keep eating the heads off of the peppers we planted, right? They just kind of nibble and stuff. And you're just thinking like, wow, like we did this relatively small thing, and immediately nature is like, yum, yum, I'm coming, and you have all of this life now and all of this diverse life. It really, I wasn't expecting our thesis to be validated so quickly, and we're not even, we planted, 30-gallon trees, right? So they've got a long ways to go before this is really the lush, vibrant landscape that we envision, because it, would be cost prohibitive to like throw in huge trees, right? We got to plant them a little bit small and let them grow. And so that's going to take some time, but overall, these 6 libraries, I mean, they're going to be capable of producing thousands of pounds of food a year in the next couple of years when they're more mature, as well as providing habitat for birds, bees, butterflies, moths, crickets, grasshoppers, you name it, ladybugs. It really is a beautiful thing. And when I was out there at our groundbreaking ceremony at one of the first libraries, it was like the music was going and all of these people were there, and we had city officials and county officials and residents and kids running around everywhere. And I was very touched by it all. I mean, to see that, Jamie has had this dream for 10 years, and to like be able to help usher this into being real. It's very, I've never worked on something like this where it's there, and it for the rest of my life, hopefully I'll be able to go to these libraries and say, I planted that, this is here because of the work that I did. And if our work doesn't go any further than that, that's still a heck of a legacy to leave my community that I love so much. So it's just such a blessing to be able to do this work on a daily basis, and to have that kind of physical representation of our love for the earth and for our community.
Yeah, well, that's really inspiring to hear. I think you should be really proud of the way you represent the movement as well, not just the things that you do, but it's the way you talk about it, and just the whole energy that you put into the words, and the way you present it is really, really inspiring, even for someone who might not have much experience in that. I'm feeling like I really want to bring this movement into the UK, because I haven't heard much of this happening here. So yeah, you should be really proud of yourself. And how can people find you online? How can people find the organization online and get further information and maybe get involved?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is go to rootsdownga.com. You can find information there. We are, I will, kind of warn your viewers, like we are fairly local at this point. Like we're focusing mostly on DeKalb County in Georgia in the US, but our growth model is going to be much closer aligned to franchising. I hate using that word because people think of McDonald's when I say that, but the idea is that we really, we have a scalable solution that has to be implemented in a hyper-local context, which we can't dictate from Atlanta, Georgia. It has to be a cooperation with that local community, or else it fails. It's just one more extractive type of business. So our goal is to really help seed different chapters and roots down organizations around the country first. Although we'd be open to international cooperation as well, and let local people really drive that change. And then we can provide the resources, we can be the clearinghouse for resources and information. And so don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you're inspired by this and you think that you might be interested in bringing this to your local community, reach out. We absolutely are open to it, but our main hub here is in DeKalb County, Georgia, and the Atlanta metro area. The other thing I would say is you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram. It's RootsDownGA across the board, so it's on all platforms. And also, if you're interested in some of my views personally, I'm on Twitter pretty heavily, and that's at Dog Eat Crow, and I'd be happy to connect with anybody on Twitter. My views are my own. I'll say there's a lot of overlap between Roots Down and myself, but on Twitter, I have a tendency to weigh in on a whole lot of things that maybe don't directly bear on what Roots Down does.
And again, that's dog as in DOG, right?
Yeah. It's a phrase my dad used to say, because my last name is Crow, right? So he used to say it's a dog eat crow world, which of course is a bastardization of the dog eat dog world, phrase. My dad has a lot of strange kind of like sayings that I always thought he just copped, but the older I get, the more I realize that no, he just straight up made up all these strange phrases. And dog eat crow has always stuck with me because I kind of instantly recognizable.
Well, hopefully the dogs don't eat the crows, and we can have more roots down replacing the McDonald's franchise. I think that the world will be in very much better shape if the franchises of McDonald's were all knocked down and replaced by roots down gardens everywhere.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us, and everybody go check out rootsdownga.com and see how you can get involved and follow all their social media. And if anybody has any other awesome people that we should interview for Solutions Pod, you can leave a message, or if you have any questions for Trey, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can send us a message, hello@naturehub.com. I guess until next time. Oh yeah, well, yeah. Do you have anything to add?
Thanks for having me. No, just thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. This is a lovely conversation.
Yeah, it really has been. I hope to have you on again in the future to hear how this is spreading out. I really have a good feeling about it, and I know a lot of people that want to see this happen, and it's great to see that people are on the ground, doing this, and hopefully this can inspire some other people who just maybe didn't think that it could happen. And like you said, gardening, really, people have this idea that it's so far out of reach, but it's really not that difficult. I think maybe the food industry wants us all to think it's so hard, and you have to have a green thumb, so they'll keep people from growing all their food in their front yard, which you could really do if you have a decent sized front yard usually. Yeah. So.
Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one more thing. Me and Jason Snyder and Ashley Colby of Rhizoma Field School, we're actually launching a new podcast called Doomer Optimism. And that's a private thing that I'm doing separate from Roots Down, but we should be launching that shortly. So just follow us on Twitter, and you'll hear about it when it drops.
Yeah, that's an exciting project, and it's good to stay optimistic even as people feel the world is falling apart. And even if it does, there's going to be great things that can come of it that we are just not capable of seeing. So it's good that you're thinking about that and planning ahead for it, and staying optimistic. So yeah, one of the biggest weapons against us right now is just like this idea that we can't change things, and we just have to kind of be afraid all the time. But we're really very powerful, and when we come together, we can do a lot of great things. So anyway, everybody out there, thanks for watching, and until next time, in this world full of problems, don't forget that we have the power to be the solutions that are needed. So. Till next time, take care. All right, cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks so much.